There's a reason people lose themselves in relationships. They confuse love with approval. They chase validation instead of peace. And in doing so, they hand over their power, hoping affection will fill the void that self-respect was meant to guard. But love, true love, can never grow where boundaries don't exist, because boundaries are not walls. They are the framework that gives love its shape. They tell the other person, this is how you treat me. This is what I accept. This is who I am. When you have no boundaries, you invite chaos disguised as passion. You confuse tolerance with loyalty. You think patience will make them see your worth. But all it really does is teach them they can cross lines without consequence. The boundary is what separates a woman he desires from a woman he respects. Desire fades when the chase ends. Respect endures when the boundary holds. The truth is, men fall in love not when they get everything they want, but when they can't get away with everything they try. It's not cruelty, it's clarity. It's the rare power of someone who refuses to be diminished for the sake of connection. That kind of strength shakes him. It forces him to evolve or lose you, because love isn't about submission, it's about standard. The boundary says, if you want access to me, bring honor to the table. Not excuses, not half effort, not inconsistency. Every man, whether he admits it or not, is drawn to the woman who stands firm in what she believes. The woman who isn't swayed by charm, pressure, or loneliness. The woman who can walk away from what disrespects her even if her heart still cares. That kind of composure terrifies the weak and captivates the strong. A boundary is not punishment, it's direction. It tells a man how to love you properly. It tells him that you are not impressed by potential, but by discipline. Not by promises, but by proof. You don't build a forever kind of love by giving everything away. You build it by requiring something real. When you set a boundary, some will call you difficult, others will call you cold, but the right one will call you different. He'll recognize the rare energy of a woman who values herself, and that's when something powerful happens. He begins to rise to meet your standard. Because men don't grow in comfort, they grow in challenge. And the greatest challenge is earning the respect of someone who refuses to settle. That's when love becomes something sacred. Not an escape, not a transaction, but a shared discipline. Two people choosing each other, not out of need, but out of admiration. Understand this, every no you give is an act of direction. Every time you refuse to tolerate disrespect, you are silently saying, I am building something that deserves permanence. You can't inspire devotion through sacrifice of self. You inspire it through presence, strength, and integrity. This is the boundary that makes men fall in love forever, the unshakable standard of self-respect. It's the quiet power that says, I am not here to be chosen. I am here to be met. When he realizes he cannot manipulate that, when he understands that your love is not a currency, but a privilege, something shifts in him. He starts to value instead of consume. He starts to protect instead of test. That's when love stops being a game and becomes a commitment. Your boundary teaches him what temporary affection never could, that the deepest form of connection is earned through consistency, not charm, through growth, not comfort. So stand tall in your worth. Don't dilute it for attention. Don't bend for validation. The one who truly sees you won't be scared by your boundaries. He'll be guided by them. Because boundaries are not barriers to love. They are the blueprint of lasting respect. When you have no boundaries, love turns into survival. You begin to give not from abundance, but from fear. Fear of losing someone, fear of being replaced, fear of being unloved. But love built on fear will always collapse. Because respect cannot exist where there are no limits. Boundaries are not barriers, they are the structure that gives love meaning. They are the invisible lines that tell another person how to treat you, how to value you, and how to earn your trust. Without them, relationships drift into imbalance. One gives endlessly while the other takes without realizing the cost. You see, love without boundaries is chaos dressed as devotion. It feels intense, consuming, almost addictive, but it's not love, it's dependence, it's self-betrayal disguised as care. It's the slow erosion of your identity in the name of connection. And when you lose your identity, you lose the very thing that made you lovable in the first place. The boundary is where self-respect lives. It's not about controlling others, it's about honoring yourself. It's about saying, "Es and I refuse to participate in anything that asks me to shrink." It's the voice inside that whispers, whispers cost me my peace, it's too expensive. When you draw a boundary, you don't push love away, you purify it. You separate the genuine from the manipulative, the respectful from the selfish. The ones who truly care won't be offended by your limits, they'll be grateful for the clarity. Because boundaries make love sustainable, they protect both hearts from resentment and misunderstanding. A boundary tells a man that you value yourself, and that's what makes him value you more deeply. It's not your availability that captures him, it's your discernment. It's not your softness alone, it's your strength in knowing when to walk away. When you say, "No, that doesn't work for me," you are teaching him how to treat you. When you say, "I need space to think," you are showing that your emotions don't rule you, your principles do. And that kind of composure commands respect. The truth is, every healthy relationship is built on a balance between closeness and individuality. Boundaries maintain that balance. They ensure that love doesn't suffocate, that care doesn't turn into control. Without them, connection becomes dependency, and passion becomes pressure. You are not here to be consumed, you are here to be understood. You are not meant to bend until you break just to keep someone else comfortable. So when you establish a boundary, you are not being harsh, you are being honest. You are saying, I love you, but I also love myself. That's the highest form of love there is, one that includes you in the equation. And make no mistake, the people who truly see your worth will never punish you for having boundaries. They will adjust, they will rise, they will appreciate that your limits come from self-awareness, not selfishness. Because love without respect is possession, and love with respect is partnership. A boundary is the silent declaration of self-worth. It says, if you want to be close to me, bring peace, not chaos. Bring honesty, not confusion. Bring effort, not excuses. When a man meets a woman with that kind of energy, he doesn't see arrogance, he sees power, he doesn't see distance, he sees dignity, he doesn't see rejection. He sees someone who knows her value and refuses to settle for half of what she deserves. That's the kind of woman a man doesn't forget, because she makes him realize that love isn't given freely, it's earned through consistency, through respect, through action. So don't be afraid to draw your lines. Don't apologize for having standards. The right person won't run from them. They'll be grateful for them. Because boundaries don't kill love, they protect it. They preserve its purity, its balance, its truth. Without them, love loses its respect. With them, love becomes unbreakable. There's a silent power in boundaries, a power that doesn't shout, doesn't chase, doesn't plead. It simply says, this is what love requires if it's going to last. Because connection without structure collapses into chaos. When you draw the line, you're not pushing him away. You're showing him what real intimacy demands: accountability, effort, respect, and emotional maturity. Too many people think love means endless tolerance. They believe that staying silent keeps peace. But silence, when it protects dysfunction, isn't love, it's fear. You cannot protect a connection by betraying yourself. Real connection begins where self-betrayal ends. When you draw the line, you are not rejecting him, you are inviting him to grow. You're showing him that connection isn't about taking as much as he can get away with, it's about giving what he once avoided. You're teaching him that love isn't a comfort zone, it's a responsibility. A man doesn't mature when he gets everything he wants. He matures when he meets a woman who refuses to let him stay the same. Boundaries are not ultimatums, they are invitations. They say, if you want to stay in my world, rise to meet my standard. That standard is not arrogance, it's alignment. It's the difference between being desired and being valued. When you say, this is where I stop giving more than I receive, you awaken something deep within him, a realization that love without effort is worthless. You remind him that connection isn't about access, it's about earning trust through behavior. Real connection demands presence, it demands consistency, it demands truth. It's not built on charm or chemistry, it's built on integrity. And when you draw that line, you filter out everything that can't hold that weight, because the moment you stop explaining your worth and start embodying it, he feels the shift. He feels the distance between what was easy and what's meaningful. And that's where respect is born. He may not say it out loud, but inside he starts to admire what he can't manipulate. He starts to see that your standards aren't walls, they're gates that open only for those who show up with honesty. The truth is, most people want connection, but few want the discipline it requires. Real connection demands emotional honesty. It demands communication when it's uncomfortable, accountability when it's inconvenient, and care when it's not rewarded. Your boundaries teach that. They teach him that attention isn't affection, and words aren't commitment. They teach him that you don't settle for potential. You expect participation, you don't want promises, you want presence. And in that teaching, something shifts inside him. He begins to respect what he once took for granted. When you draw the line, you force him to confront his own patterns, the moments he avoided depth, the times he used pride to protect his ego, the ways he equated love with control. Your boundary becomes his mirror. It reflects what he must change if he wants to connect on a level beyond convenience. Understand this: connection that doesn't demand growth isn't love, it's comfort. And comfort is temporary, growth is eternal. When you draw the line, yes, some will leave, but those who stay will love you correctly. They'll meet you with effort, not excuses. They'll treat your boundaries not as threats, but as guidance. Because a real man doesn't fear a woman with standards, he rises because of her. That's what separates infatuation from devotion. Infatuation wants freedom without responsibility. Devotion embraces responsibility as the highest expression of love. When you draw the line, you are not being cold, you are being clear. You are showing what healthy connection requires. You are saying, if we are going to grow, it must be built on mutual respect, not emotional chaos. The right man will understand that your boundaries don't restrict love. They protect it. They make it sustainable. They ensure that what you share doesn't crumble under selfishness or imbalance. Because love without boundaries is noise. Love with boundaries is harmony. And when you draw that line, you teach him what real connection truly demands. Consistency over convenience, effort over excuses, growth over comfort, and respect over desire. Desire is easy. It's impulsive, intoxicating, and loud. It burns fast, but it burns out just as quickly. It's what pulls people together, but not what keeps them there. What sustains love is not passion alone, it's principle. It's the quiet, disciplined structure of limits that hold two people accountable to something greater than impulse. When there are no limits, love becomes chaos. It becomes a playground for ego, for pride, for comfort. People take without giving, stay without growing, and call it connection. But connection without discipline collapses under its own weight. Limits are the foundation that separates attachment from maturity. They define what's sacred and what's not. They say, "We don't cross this line," not because we don't want to, but because we respect what we're building. That's the kind of love that endures, not the one that chases constant excitement, but the one that chooses commitment even when it's not convenient. Desire wants the moment. Discipline builds the future. The truth is, desire alone can't hold the pressure of reality. It thrives in the beginning when everything is new and effortless. But when real life enters the equation, when flaws appear, when challenges test patience, desire begins to fade. What remains then? The limits, the structure, the standards that both people agreed to honor. Love with limits says, "And I won't cross certain lines, no matter how strong my emotions get." It says, "I'll choose integrity over impulse." That's what keeps love clean. That's what keeps it stable. You see, limits don't kill passion, they protect it. They preserve the purity of desire by keeping it grounded in respect. Without limits, even the strongest connection turns toxic, because boundaries are the oxygen love breathes. When two people love without boundaries, they start to lose themselves in each other. The line between care and control blurs. The difference between giving and pleasing disappears, and eventually one or both start to resent what was once beautiful. That's why love without limits doesn't last. It consumes instead of cultivates. Real love thrives under responsibility. It's the ability to say care about you, but I won't lose myself to keep you. It's knowing when to step back, when to speak up, when to protect your peace. And those limits don't weaken the bond, they strengthen it, because they create trust. They say, I know where you stand and you know where I stand. There's clarity, and in that clarity, safety grows. A man who truly values you won't fear your limits. He'll be guided by them. He'll see that your standards don't make love harder. They make it real. They turn attraction into respect, and respect into devotion. When love is built on limits, both people understand that freedom without responsibility is destruction. They realize that saying a no sometimes is what allows every eyes to matter. Desire says, I want you. Love with limits says, I choose you, and I'll keep choosing you the right way. There's a difference between craving someone and caring for them. Craving is about taking, caring is about protecting. Limits protect what craving would destroy. When you love within boundaries, you leave room for growth, for individuality, for self-respect, for evolution. You remind each other that love is not ownership, it's partnership. A relationship without limits feels exciting at first, but unstable underneath. It's built on emotion, not structure. It's like a house with no foundation, beautiful but ready to fall. Love built on limits is different. It's not fragile. It doesn't collapse when tested. It becomes stronger through time because it's rooted in respect. It knows when to pause, when to forgive, when to demand better. It knows that passion without direction leads nowhere. When you set limits, you're not rejecting connection, you're defining it. You're saying, I love you, but I also love myself. And if we're going to do this, it must honor us both. That's why love built on limits lasts longer. It grows instead of drains. It deepens instead of dissolves. It stays steady when emotions fluctuate, because it was never built on feelings alone. It was built on values. So don't be afraid to draw your lines. Don't fear being misunderstood for having standards, because what lasts is never the wildest love. It's the one that knows when to stop, when to protect, and when to stay true to what's right. Desire will draw him close. Limits will make him stay. Because love built on limits doesn't just survive, it matures. It teaches both hearts how to honor, not just how to feel. And that kind of love doesn't fade, it becomes forever. People often mistake your boundary for an act of rejection. They think you're building walls when in truth you're building worth. Because setting a boundary doesn't mean you're pushing someone away. It means you're choosing not to lose yourself trying to keep them close. Boundaries are love in their most mature form. They're not weapons. They're not punishments. They're clarity. Clarity about what you need to stay at peace, to stay whole, to stay true to yourself. When you say no, it's not cruelty, it's care. It's the quiet courage to protect your emotional space before it's invaded. It's the awareness that love cannot thrive in confusion or imbalance. The boundary isn't about controlling anyone. It's about controlling what you allow into your life. It's not rejection, it's redirection. It's saying, this is how I stay aligned with my values, even when emotions pull me in every direction. You don't draw a boundary to punish someone, you draw it to protect yourself from repeating a lesson you've already learned. And the ones who truly love you, who truly see you, will never take offense to that. They'll recognize that your boundary doesn't exclude them, it invites them to show up correctly. Because here's the truth, respect and love are not the same thing. Many people love deeply but respect poorly. They're careful emotionally but disregard your needs behaviorally. A boundary is what bridges that gap. It turns affection into accountability. When you enforce a boundary, you teach others how to treat you. You say, this is where access ends and effort begins. You show that your presence is not a given. It's earned through consistency, honesty, and respect. That's what makes your love powerful. It's not unconditional access, it's unconditional integrity. Boundaries are self-respect translated into action. They're proof that your words and your values are aligned. They say, know what hurts me, I know what drains me, and I refuse to keep repeating what breaks me. It takes strength to say no when your heart still cares. It takes wisdom to walk away when every part of you wants to stay. But the moment you do, something inside you shifts. You stop trying to be chosen and start choosing yourself. And that's when peace replaces pain. The boundary is where self-worth begins to speak louder than fear. It's where you stop negotiating with disrespect, stop explaining your standards, and stop apologizing for what you need. Some will call it pride, some will call it distance, but those who understand will call it growth, because boundaries don't push love away, they refine it. They separate those who want to use you from those who want to understand you. They reveal who's willing to meet your standard and who was only there for convenience. The boundary says, if loving me cost me my self-respect, then it's not love. And that's not rejection, it's truth. When you uphold your boundary, you might lose a few people, but you'll gain something far more valuable: peace. Peace that isn't dependent on someone else's behavior. Peace that comes from knowing you honored yourself. That peace is magnetic. It changes how you walk, how you speak, how you show up. It tells the world that you are no longer chasing validation. You're living in alignment. And here's the beauty of it. When you live with boundaries, you don't repel love. You attract higher love. You attract people who don't feel threatened by your strength, but inspired by it. People who see your boundaries as a sign of depth, not defiance. Because the right person won't need you to break your limits to prove your love. They'll respect those limits as part of who you are. The boundary isn't rejection, it's a filter. It lets in only what's safe, kind, and genuine. It ensures that the love you receive matches the love you give. Every time you stand firm in your standard, you tell life, I am not afraid to be alone if it means being whole. And that energy is unshakable. So stop apologizing for having limits. Stop thinking that protecting your peace makes you hard to love. It doesn't make you hard, it makes you clear. Because when you respect yourself, you teach the world how to respect you. The boundary isn't the end of love, it's the beginning of healthy love. It's the moment where need turns into choice, where fear turns into freedom. And when you live like that, loving fully but never losing yourself, you don't just find love, you become love.